The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps to cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the R.I.F.T Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you could need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Welcome to the Forgotten Library. Where the books whisper, the shadows listen, and the stories refuse to stay quietly on the shelf. I'm your host, Christina Spencer. And each month, we explore one novel together. With 3 one-hour live episodes of immersive, read-aloud chapters. Followed by a live interview with the author who brought the story to life. So find your favorite comfy chair, a soft blanket, and a hot beverage. Light a candle if the darkness scares you. And settle in for story time. Welcome to this week's live episode of Horror, History, and Hauntings Library. Hello, all my creepy little weirdos. I hope everyone's having a get it out early. Fabulous Friday evening. Tonight, my hot beverage of choice is hot cocoa with caramel. That's what I choose. I'm curious what your evening beverage is when you wind down from a hard day. And in lieu of lighting a candle tonight, I decided I was going to do some incense. So we're going to see if we can light this with this electric lighter we got for Christmas. There we go. Give it a minute. If anybody's interested, the incense I'm burning tonight is called Lilith's Blend. It is from Silver Moon Offerings. I discovered them at one of the conferences I was at. So the house is not on fire. The smoke is actually incense. I just thought it would be a nice add today to our chill vibes. I got to figure out where I'm going to put it. There we go. So it's not in our way of readings here. But tonight we're doing 2 short stories from Derek Barton. We ended the live readings of the Eclipse last week, which we're going to discuss all about his anthologies, all about the Eclipse on next week's episode when we sit down with the author. So before further ado, let's get Bob up here. Give me one second here. There we go. There's old Bob. I think we're going to maybe go with this one today. And we'll get him situated here. There we go. All right, there we go. Tonight, I think we are going to start with the longer of the 2 short stories. It's in Gates of Hell Unleashed, The Fear House. Come on, camera, like me. There we go. It is an anthology. It has lots of stories in here. It's about 500 pages long. And it's a lot of short stories of different authors. But we are focused on Derek Barton's story. It's called Suicide for Suckers. And in brief talking with Derek about this story, I know one of the characters is actually inspired by H.H. Holmes. If you know H.H. Holmes, which I kind of was like minorly obsessed with that story. It was a real life serial killer. He was one of the first documented serial killers in early America. Yeah, so one of the characters is loosely based on him. So let's get started. This is, again, Gates of Hell Unleashed. It's a short story by Derek Barton, and it's called Suicide is for Suckers. If anybody's listening, I hope the sound is okay with the background music and everything. If something's off, please let me know in the chat. That way I know I can fix it before, we get too far into the story. Okay? So let's get started. Suicide is for Suckers. Day 0. The streetlights swirled ominously. 4 walls of night surrounding and obscuring the top of the parking garage. Everything before Chad's eyes blurred and skewed inside a whirlwind. The concrete beneath his feet bucked and rippled. It was like a giant hand grabbed reality and spun the wheel. Vomit threatened to surge up his throat. Every sound was dull and muted. Even his heavy panting was barely audible. His back prickled with goosebumps as a sudden wind blew over his sweat-soaked dress shirt. The amber bottle of bourbon slipped from his grasp and shattered at his feet. He clutched at his car door with both hands, stood as still as possible, and waited for the world to slow down and stop. Several long, drawn-out minutes passed. He eased himself into his driver's seat behind the wheel. He let his head rest against the cushion and closed his eyes. His breathing began to subside. The coke, man. What was in that coke? His mind reeled in a wake of the drug effects. I've had coke and bourbon together before, and I've never felt like this. I'm going to kill Maxie. She gave me a tainted score. That stupid bitch. He opened his eyes. The street lights were back at their posts. They dotted the city landscape before him, much like sunlit dewdrops on grass. His tongue stuck to the top of his mouth. His throat was dried out. Husk. A deep-seated craving came over him for that bottle of whiskey. Chad twisted his head around as he scanned the interior of the Malibu looking for a stray abandoned bottle of water. Nothing. Only scattered napkins, straw wrappers, fast food wrappers, and paper bags cluttered the passenger side. He gave up the search when he spotted a crumpled pack of cigarettes. After bouncing one out, he found his lighter in the loose change tray of the car console. It only took a few deep drags to feel a calm descending over him. The cocaine still ran frantically through his veins along with whatever else was in it. But now that the young man was sitting in his car, Chad had a semblance of peace and control. The view of the city below as it sprawled along the mountains and rushed to the shorelines of the Gulf of Mexico was still breathtaking. He wondered how he managed to destroy the beauty of his life in the face of such amazing natural grandeur. The Coke. Every time it's the Coke. His brain quickly spoke up in case he had somehow not realized that first. I'm not stupid. Top grades in high school. Star in track and field. I graduated with a business degree from ACU. I have worked and managed a bank branch for 4 years. He wasn't an idiot, but still not smart enough to avoid being an addict for 2.5 years. The day at B&O Financial had ended abruptly at 12:25 p.m. when Vice President Douglas Brampton walked in on him doing 3 lines in a janitor's closet. First mistake. Escorted out of the branch building by security around 1:17 p.m. Call to fiancé Tess Fields. Second mistake. By 3:11 p.m., Chad was a single man again. After finding Maxie and a score of fresh stash, he drove over to the Total Wines and Whiskey on Lehman Avenue. 4:02 p.m. Third mistake. Chad glanced at the Malibu's dashboard clock. It was 2:11 a.m. He shook his head in disgust. The last 5 hours were an opaque void, an abyss that could not be revealed, or what were his actions. The Malibu sat idle and parked at a bad angle on the empty rooftop. Did I just get here, or have I been here all night? He sat up and scanned the hood. Doesn't look damaged, so I doubt I hit anything. Scoffing and shrugging his shoulders, he settled back. The heaviness settled on him, pressing him like a barbell into his cushioned seat. Tess was not the love of his life, but she had been very good to him to this point. She was a red-haired beauty with an actual head on her shoulders. In the beginning, they spent hours debating philosophy or conspiracy theories. Then, they would spend the next hours having frantic, wild sex. They had celebrated their first anniversary 2 months ago. He proposed to her a month later. He couldn't fight her logic and recalled her words of damnation. How dare you expect me to trust you? I never saw you take drugs. Now you're telling me you just lost your job for coke? I don't know you. After what happened to my brother? Her words had choked off in a sob. I don't know you. Never call here again, asshole. Click. 3 missteps. No, that would be 3 strikes. You're out, man. Game over. Over and out. He stumbled out of the car. His legs were pretty shaky. The wind had picked up and he approached the ledge. He felt the light spattering of raindrops. First, Chad looked up at the fast-moving clouds. The sky was getting overcast. A surging storm was sweeping in from the bay. He leaned over the waist-high stone barrier, scanning the street below. He was in a 7th-floor parking garage. A busy street below, even at this hour. Cars lined up both directions and cars parked on both sides. However, there were no bystanders. No one was walking the sidewalks or loitering in front of the few shops that called Descartes roadway home. Descartes roadway home. 3 strikes. You were out, Chad. Go home. He took a deep breath and climbed on top of the barrier. That is a fine watch you have there, Mr. Bovius, a masculine voice called out from behind. It was smooth with a slight southern twang. The words hinted at notes of refinement and intelligence. Chad snapped to look over his shoulders. A slender man, not gaunt or athletic, but trim, leaned against the silver Malibu. What? I said you have a fine watch, a limited edition silver and gold 23 Belova Octava. Yes, it would be a shame to damage it in your fall, don't you think? The man flashed a perfect smile with the bright teeth and an earnest expression and a wry grin. Beside the carefree attitude, he wore a dark brown suit, a vest, and a matching derby with a black band. His face was thin with a short, beak nose over a reddish-brown goatee. It's not for sale, man. Fuck off. Posh, my good man. Everything is for sale. Everything and every person has a price. The wind gusted and Chad teetered on the edge. His arms shot out to either side, helping him regain some of his balance. But the wind fought back. Pinwheeling, he felt himself start to slip. The man strutted forward and snagged Chad's belt, stopping the forward momentum. If I could offer you one solution, one answer to everything, would you give me your last seconds to hear me out? Look, Or I could let go, he said, stepping forward a few inches. Those few inches gave Chad an intimate bird's-eye view of the cement sidewalk below. Below were the hard metal cars reflecting street lamps. He heard and felt the rumble of speeding tractor-trailers that were making long-haul journeys across the state. No, hey, stop! Are you crazy? Then let me formally introduce myself, so we can have a civilized adult conversation. You may call me Mr. Holmes. I'm Chad. Bovius, yes. Do you want to hear my offer now? Chad nodded, knowing there was little option. As quick as he had been ready to throw it all away, the act of climbing onto the ledge had ended his drug stupor. Hanging precariously 70 feet or more in the air by his belt and completely sobered him up. He never felt more alive. All 5 senses thrummed with a vibrancy overriding his sanity. What do you want, mister? It is Mr. Holmes. I won't say it again. His grin had vanished. It is not what I want, but what I can offer. Chad sighed with relief as the stranger helped him back into the garage, plopped down to rest with his back against the barrier, and said, All right, I'm listening. What would you say is your biggest obstacle in life? What has always got the better of you? Or who, perhaps? You tell me, you seem to know me already. A black wooden cane with a curved handle resembling a snake appeared in his hand. He whipped it up and punched Chad hard in the chest. Mr. Holmes then brought it to a spare 2 inches from his left eye. Time is of an essence, and I don't take to fools. They say that every 17 seconds a man takes his life. I do not need you, you need me. Are you going to drop your attitude, or do I throw you off the garage myself? The steely look in Mr. Holmes's eye spoke the truth. He was ready to end Chad's life. Sorry, he gulped. His hand rubbed absently at the spot where the cane had struck. Go on. I will resolve the root of evil in your life. I can make whatever you name as your challenge disappear forever. Imagine it. It's not an offer of instant success, but true power to succeed on your own merits. You've always wanted to prove yourself. Make everyone eat their doubts. Chad couldn't help himself. He giggled and then cackled. The words tumbled out. Oh man, you had me there. You got me good. Quite the sales pitch. What are you, some psychologist or maybe one of those police negotiators? That was clever, man. Distract me long enough to pull me down from the ledge. Um, am I under arrest now? He glanced about, expecting police officers to leap from the shadows. The cane wavered in the air as Mr. Holmes decided if he was being mocked or not. It dropped. He crouched beside the man. His hand shot out and caught Chad's neck in his empty palm. 5 minutes ago. See what you almost did? The ominous stranger whispered. In his mind, a crowd gathered around the park green sedan. A body had been flattened and molded into the top of the sedan itself. It was his body. One of his green eyes stared ahead, lifeless, while the other eye dangled on his cheek, facing the ground. Blood ran in several thick streams down the front of the windshield. One broken arm jutted in two different directions and sported the Belova octava with a shattered crystal facing. Suicide is for suckers, Mr. Believus. What is the root of your evil? Tell me. I'm I'm a drug addict. I can't stop. I don't even want to stop. Easy, see, that wasn't so hard to answer. Mr. Holmes rose, straightened, and rolled his shoulders. The cane was gone again. Do you know where you are tonight? Do you know this address? Yes. Good. Then in 60 days you must come back to me. Stand before me and prove my gift had not been wasted. Chad struggled to his feet. What do you get? What's the price? A flash of his blazing white teeth split the stranger's face as he smiled and then winked. You are a shrewd banker. Every soul is tainted. It is only natural. The world is filled with temptations and tests. So every soul has a penance to pay in one form or another. I pay mine by saving good men, keeping good from their foolish decisions. Suicide is for suckers, remember? He swiped at the creases in his suit slacks and smoothed out the wrinkles in his sleeves. Do we have a deal? Wait, you'll wipe out my drug addiction, just like that. And the only thing I need to do is come back here? Or or else what? You pay my penance by your good karma and deeds in the world. Mr. Holmes stopped. His eyes filled with blood. A growl began in his chest. You fail me, then you'll pay me in another way. For eternity. Chad watched as his hand, with a will of its own, extended and shook Mr. Holmes's hand. Okay, let's check chat messages real quick. It said Holmes is also being said connected to Jack the Ripper. Yeah, there is some. There's an absence in the timeline for H. Holmes during the Ripper killing. So some people suspect that maybe he went to England during that period of time and committed the Ripper murders and then came back to the United States and then kept on with his con man ways and his murderous ways at the castle. At the murder castle is what they called it. It's now a post office. But yeah, if you ever are interested in H. Holmes, it's a fascinating subject. It really is. I've thought about doing a podcast or a video on it eventually. Let me get a sip of something and then we'll dive right back into the story because that's all the chats we have right now. Making sure our music's playing. There we go. Okay. Day 1. First cut. Chad snapped awake, eyes wide and darting. He sat up and found himself in the apartment. Everything felt the same. Dirty sheets, scratchy blankets, and even his white dress shirt stained and wrinkled. His pants were crumpled up, lying in a chair next to the small window. 3 posters hung on the wall. One is a glass frame of a blazing blue Camaro, lights reflecting off the middle as it sat parked in a puddle, reflecting its dark image. The second poster was a movie poster, a copy of the Caddyshack movie. The last poster had a wine stain on one of the corners. It was a poor rendition of a runaway train merging into the silhouette of a 3-masted sailing ship that streaked into the horizon, chasing the setting moon. A short black work desk sat opposite the bed. It had his car keys, wallet, cell phone, and a cigarette pack. Piles of napkins and a couple of pizza boxes were stacked on the corner. He did the majority of his work in that office. All signs indicate home, his place on 77th Avenue. He yawned, stretched, and pulled his legs free of the covers. Wow, I'm feeling good. Not even a hangover. Chad got up, to his amazement, and shambled down the hall into the bathroom. In the mirror, he looked like shit despite what his body indicated. His face was thick with stubble. Crusties rimmed his eyes, and there was dry drool and bourbon on his chin. His thoughts were slightly foggy, as per the normal morning haze, but the newly unemployed had found he couldn't remember how he got home. Plucking open one of the sink drawers in the bathroom vanity, his fingers rummaged for his pipe and lighter. As his hand was wrapping around the glass tube, he froze. I'm good. I don't even really want it. The pipe dropped back into the drawer, and the drawer was shut without hesitation. He smiled at his reflection. I'm good. Holy shit. I really do not need it a bit. Above his collar, he noted a spot of red. Christ, another new stain. His fingers pulled back the collar to reveal a long scratch, razor thin. It had bled in his sleep. The whitish t-shirt had a half circle of blood, almost a pie plate size. He ran water on the hand towel and blotted the cut. It helped. Where did that come from? Chad mused. The flash of an obscured face popped from memory. A dark brown suit, a stylish derby, a black cane, a murmur of conversations. What is the root of all your evil? Tell me. He splashed water onto his face, ignoring his thoughts. It doesn't matter. It's a brand new day. I'm going to make something of it. Time to refresh that resume. He cheered himself on. His eyes glanced once more at the bleeding scratch. A cloud of concern passed briefly over his face. Let's look here. Okay. Day 7. 10 cuts. The week passed in a blur of activity, one of the best he'd had in several years. Today, up early, he was dressed, shaved for a second interview, and jogged 2 miles down at the park. This had been the 4th day in a row for this new habit. The night before, instead of hitting cherry bombas for drinks, he lifted weights at the Burn It Off 24-hour fitness. He felt amazing and remained sober. No alcohol, no cigarettes, no heroin, not even much caffeine at all. He even threw away a new vape pen that had just come through Amazon 2 weeks ago. Wrapped in a towel, fresh out of the shower, he frowned once more upon seeing his image in the mirror. Where the fuck are these coming from? A pair of scratches were on the opposite side of his neck from the first one Chad had found a week ago. Twisting around, he spotted 4 other lacerations along his ribs and 2 more by his hip. The last cut a furrow over his left shoulder. It bled badly. The makeshift torn towel bandages were seeping through. Going to have to stop at the pharmacy and pick up some gauze and butterfly bandages, he thought. Every morning when he woke up, there was 1 or 2 more scratches. The shoulder wound was by far the deepest. Every night, His sleep was plagued with flashbacks and snippets of memory, and last night had been the longest of his nightmares. It was recounting of the horrific encounter with Mr. Holmes. Mr. Holmes' maddening words repeated in his mind. Time is of the essence, and I don't take to fools. Day 14. 40 cuts. Another week passed. Chad was scared. Hell, he was near panic. He reread the small written directions once more from the white brochure in his shaky hands. I said that you have a fine watch, a limited edition silver and gold 23 Beluva Octava. Yes, it would be a shame to damage it in your fall, don't you think? The haunting words echoed inside his skull. Shut up, he muttered and wiped at the sweat that dripped down one side of his head. On the desk sat a new Trimverse UNX camera, a night vision security closed circuit special that linked to a cloud and stored new data on the hour. There were bandages on his hands and one on his cheek. Stitches on the left eyebrow and 3 scabbed over lacerations were visible on his right ear. A total of 40 by his last count. He had been to the ER twice and 2 different urgent care clinics when the ER doctors began to ask too many questions for which he had no answers for. I don't know. I woke up with a cut, Chad told the male nurse while wrapping cotton gauze around his wrist. The man didn't answer, but the look of suspicion in his eyes said enough. They may admit him at this rate, under supervision for his own good. But they're going to get me answers, right, Mr. Trimverse? He connected it to the tripod standing next to the desk. With a camera, he hoped to see who or what caused the wounds. It had to be stopped. His new job was already in jeopardy. Everyone had noticed the excessive cuts. A red light powered on, signaling it was recording. He slipped into bed and left the bedroom lights on. Pain and a cold sensation woke him up. Blood spilled down his cheek and into his mouth, filling it with a heavy iron taste. Chad ran down the hall. In the mirror, he saw a jagged scratch, as deep as the cut on his shoulder had been. It ran across his left cheek and split under his lip. Fucker, he shouted in fury. I hate to call in. Can't be helped. I can't go in like this, but first, what's on the recording? His mind raced with fright and dread. It took a minute for the laptop to warm up. He cycled through his app. The CCTV file marked 090000 0914-2024 was the only one in the folder. He jabbed the cursor at it. A small square window popped up and played the recording. It started with him looking confused and frustrated at the camera. Powered off, powered back up, and then 5 minutes passed. But you're going to give me answers, right, Mr. Trimverse? Chad's voice repeated back to him. Then the recording showed him climbing into bed. 14 minutes of tossing and turning later, he fell asleep. The video went dark. It continued to record another 6 hours, but all was pitch black. I do not need you, you need me. You're going to drop your attitude or I throw you off this garage myself. I should have jumped, Chad said flatly. Day 30. 107 cuts. Chad leaned forward against the desk for support, using one heavy bandaged hand to manipulate the mouse on the laptop screen. Search spontaneous injury scratch. No search results. Search skin disease injury scratch. No search results. He sighed, then coughed. Blood oozed out of the side of his mouth. His head throbbed from the horror of the last few weeks. He hadn't been able to sleep more than 2 hours a day. Exhaustion and blood loss exacted a heavy toll. It had been a month, and the cuts were too numerous to count or tell if they were new or still trying to heal. A clock at the edge of the screen showed 9:12 a.m. His stomach growled, but Chad willfully ignored it. Money was tight. The last time he called out Jennings, his manager said, "Your position will be given to someone who can be present." And the rent is due tomorrow. Blood dripped from his seat. A long laceration sliced down the backside of his leg, opening up again. He shook his head at the sight of it. How can I go on? I can't find any help online. No one knows what I'm going through. The ERs and the clinics are out. Mercy Memorial nearly institutionalized me the last time. Chad stood and walked gingerly down the hall to the bathroom. He scanned his reflection in the mirror, again swaying back and forth. His entire chest was wrapped in gauze now. Torn strips made from bed sheets swathed his head. Empty boxes of bandages, rolls of medical tape, various cotton balls, and pads littered his blood-splattered bathroom sink and counter. He shuffled back to his desk to continue his internet searching. Desperation versus hope pushed him to keep looking. Day 40. 277 cuts. The sky rumbled with crackling thunder. Clouds blistered and swirled overhead as they surrounded the parking garage. His Malibu headlights provided the only source of light. The man stood in silhouette, his arms stretched out straight at his sides in a crucifixion position. Chad walked toward him. Why? Why won't you stop? Are you doing this to me? He pleaded. No answer. Chilling rain erupted from the sky, and downpour sprayed him. He wouldn't stop before standing in front of the man, the monster, his mind corrected. Talk to me. What do you need? Silence. I suffer no fools. Loud laughter erupted in his head. An image popped into his mind of a toothy smile, a wry grin, and that mocking smirk. You've always wanted to prove yourself, make everyone eat their doubts. You've always wanted to prove yourself, make everyone eat their doubts. You've always wanted to prove yourself, make everyone eat their doubts. Chad fell to his knees, gripping his temples. Please, please. What? Why? Mr. Holmes stepped down from the ledge. Car headlights exposed his torso and legs. The rain dwindled to a light sprinkle. You're running out of time. Tick-tock. Are you wasting my gift? You cheated. You're We made a gentleman's agreement. Be back in this spot in 2 months, Chad. You do not want to disappoint me. A crash of lightning woke him up from the nightmare. The crash evolved into a pounding on his front door. He laid motionless, too weak to move or care. His eyes closed again. The heavy pounding continued. Day 49. 487 cuts. Dr. Richardson, paging Dr. Richardson, for lab 432. The loud voice jarred Chad awake. His eyes felt heavy and desert dry. He scanned the small room around him. He lay in a hospital bed, his upper arm in firm leather straps secured to the guardrails. An IV bottle stood on the left, and a vitals monitor beeped loudly behind. His mouth was tight and jaw muscles stiff. White bandages and fresh gauze covered nearly every inch of his body. A man appeared, in his late 40s, with blonde, going silver hair, brown eyes surrounded by heavy, premature wrinkles. He carried a cluttered clipboard and a maroon pen, which was tucked behind his ears. He stood at the front of the bed and noted Chad watching him. Ah, that's good you're awake. I'm sure you have questions, but let me check your stats and med charts. I am Dr. O'Bannon at Grand Junction Hospital, by the way. A few moments later, he began again. You won't be able to talk, Mr. Boveus, your lips were badly split. They had to be stitched together. The stitches will biodegrade and disappear on their own in a few days. To prevent infection, we are feeding you intravenously. He extended his hand to touch Chad's left. I will ask you questions. For yes, extend one finger. For no, no fingers. Got it? Chad moved his index finger in a dreadfully slow gesture. Good, the doctor replied. Now, do you know how you got here? No movement. A few days ago, you were brought in by ambulance. Your landlord found you unconscious in your apartment and called 911. When we saw the state of your body, we concluded you had a manic episode of some type. Do you remember the scratches, the cuts? One finger went up. We sedated you and gave you blood transfusions to stabilize your condition. However, our night nurse noticed new cuts on your face. She thought you must have done it in your sleep. Thus, we strapped you in. A day later, an orderly spotted blood coming from your mouth. Somehow, a pair of new cuts had almost severed your tongue. We realized this was not your doing. The best guess we have is that you have some sort of skin or muscle disease causing spontaneous fissures. We have been maintaining your bandages and giving you fresh blood. Do you understand all that I've said? One finger went up. I have bad news, though. 3 cuts on your right arm grew 2 infected. The inflammation had been severed when you came in. Oh, the inflammation had been severe when you come in. I'm sorry, we had to amputate it. Chad stewed inside the silent prison of his mind. He couldn't scream in horror or frustration at the violation and loss of his arm. He wasn't angry at the doctor or the hospital. More feelings of outrage at the news. He was young and healthy before all this. Well, not really healthy, but I was functional with the drug addiction. Capable and intelligent, now I'm reduced to this mummified, butchered state. It was torture. The lacerations would continue despite the doctor's tests and theories. This was a curse. They had released his left arm now that he was awake and pumped heavy antibiotics into his blood, which helped. But this wasn't going to stop. Mr. Holmes? Chad stared and wept at the sight of the bandaged stub where his right arm had been. Hours later, he felt pressure on his leg. A pair of young female nurses lifted his leg with care while unwinding the old gauze. Oh yeah, murmured the older of the pair. She had her back hair in a bun. You see that, Stacy? It's getting darker along the opening. We better let Dr. O'Brien know about this infection. They left a few minutes later after they replaced the bandages. I have to escape. They don't know. They don't understand. Chad panicked. If they remove my leg, I'm done. I'll never make it to the parking garage in time. I must get out of here. Day 55. Day 55. 101 cuts. No, day 50, 501 cuts. Sorry about that. His breath hitched in his chest. His lungs burned as if they were filled with lit gasoline. Chad tried to calm down, yet this was a race of his life. The darkness of the closet made his search difficult to find anything. His hand explored for blankets or something with a hood or a jacket of some type. On the 3 a.m. nurse's shift, Chad had pulled himself free of the machines. Several scabs burst open from his activity and blood ran freely down his back. He stole a wheelchair, sitting empty in the hallway outside his room. The abandoned chair was his biggest stroke of luck in the last 2 months. Afterward, he slipped into a storage closet near the lobby desk and watched the attending nurse. When she left a few moments later to answer a cold blue distress call, he moved in and snatched her ID badge. Another lucky break led him to one of the floor's pill dispensaries. In his lap was every possible plastic bottle he could find with antibiotics. They clinked together with every one of his movements. Time was running out. They would note the drops of blood on the floor at any minute. You are running out of time. Tick tock. Are you wasting my gifts? Mr. Holmes' voice purred in his head. Yes, I know. I'm coming, damn it. One of those orderlies spoke about a wing, the northeast wing under construction. I'll go out there unnoticed. He slipped a blue raincoat on and draped a blanket across his lap. You fail me, then you'll pay me in another way for eternity. Day 61. 665 cuts. Chad panted, his breath more wheezing than inhaling or exhaling. His left arm ached as it bulged from his exertion from one arm willing itself to the entrance ramp of the 7th floor of the parking garage. He was unsure how long it had taken. At a guess, the climb began at about 4 or 5 in the late afternoon. The Belova had long since disappeared. The sun was down. Night had come and grown quite chilly. The blankets wrapped around him were coarse, dirty, and ripped. It had taken 6 days to cross the city to get to the parking garage. He had spent the last few days living in the garage. Each day he climbed 2 levels. The sores continued to fester, crack open, and weep endlessly. The fever burned and cooked his brain, at least for the last 3 days. He had gotten through it. I beat ya, you son of a bitch, his mind cried out in defiance. As Chad pushed the wheelchair forward and out into the air of the open roof, he spotted the demon. Mr. Holmes stood motionless, perched on top of the concrete ledge, his arms extended in the same crucifixion position from his dream. On one wrist twinkled light from Chad's silver watch. The derby was down, and the man did not acknowledge him or look at him as he approached. Within a few yards of the sinister figure, he screamed in frustration and righteousness. I made it! I'm here! Look upon me! There was no response. Rain erupted and poured from the sky. Chad Buvas realized their dance had come full circle. Look upon, he demanded, although his words were muffled by the crusty bandages and the remains of his butchered lips and cheeks. Mr. Holmes brought his arm suddenly forward, clapping. Indeed, sir, you are here. He raised his head. His face was a mask of dripping blood. Full white eyes, 3 times their normal size, bore into the mutilated man. These eyes were emotionless, a doorway into an empty void. Portals into the infinite, like an endless fall. Indeed, I do so appreciate your efforts. As they say, late but not forgotten. That wicked wry grin showing through the blood, the ivory teeth beamed with an infernal glow. You said I had 2 months. I'm here. Free me of your curse, bastard. I only failed if I didn't show. Mr. Holmes slowly shook his head. No. Perhaps, Chad, in your dreams, I said 2 months. But I clearly said that you had 60 days. We began our dance on September 1st. 60 days shows on the calendar as October 30th. Today is, of course, my favorite holiday, Halloween, October 31st. But, Chad mumbled, confused and near complete exhaustion. 1 day late. I'm sorry, Mr. Buvius, but you have not honored our agreement. He then extracted a massive serrated knife from the inside of his suit jacket. The handle resembled a black snake head with twin forked tongues protruding to form its blades. A dazzling flash of lightning flickered and flashed in its cold reflection. You currently have 665 cuts upon your body. You fail me, then you'll pay me in another way, for eternity. The words echoed full blast inside his skull. Chad shook in horror, shaking his head back and forth as the words sank in. No, you gave me 2 months. Mr. Holmes stopped and leveled the wicked blade at Chad's face. The angry words of protest stuck in his throat. It's time to eat. One last cut. Mr. Holmes' laughter was barely audible over the rainstorm's fury. His sweep was swift and final. The blade cut through the air easily and sliced the top half of his skull just below his eyes. Blood geysered about the pair. Mr. Holmes reached over, dipped a hand in the quivering skull, and then scooped a large helping which he devoured with lust. A short beeping sound, an alert from the Belova watch drew his attention. Tick-tock, Mr. Boovius, he wiped the gore from his chin. As I said before, a new opportunity every 17 minutes. I will leave you here, but I'll stop by, see how your accommodations is working out. We'll talk about what you'll do for me next. He dipped 2 fingers again inside the blood bowl of Chad's skull and licked them before plunging from the parking garage roof. And that's the end of Suicide for Suckers. So that's the end of our first story for tonight. Hope you enjoyed that one. And there's plenty more stories if you want to check it out in Gates of Hell Unleashed, The Fear House. So we're going to set that one aside for now. And on to the second story. Resituate. Ugh. I sit still for way too long. Okay. This short story is in Victims, a horror short story collection. This short story collection is from Derek Barton, of course, Brian Gotti, and T.D. Barton. And the story that we are reading in this one is called The Long Stretch. So let's get started. Chris woke up with a start. Bright lights above him stung his eyes. His mouth was sand dry, and his throat felt swollen. As his vision adapted, he looked all about him. He was behind the steering wheel in his dark blue Thunderbird. It was smoothly running at idle. He checked the rearview mirror. His short-cropped, platinum-blonde hair was still well-groomed, and nothing seemed out of place. However, his slate gray eyes were bloodshot and red-rimmed. He looked down at his light blue suit. It was relatively fresh, and he didn't note any wrinkles. He decided he hadn't been asleep long. Ahead of the car, he could see a long, empty road. Oh, it's a tunnel. The I-21, Chris realized. It was what the locals call in Clear Lake, Texas. They called it the Long Stretch. The tunnel was his normal drive to work. He had recently been promoted to operation manager of the Healthcare Plan Center. On a normal day, his commute took about 35 minutes, most of it in the tunnel. God, I fell asleep. How the hell did I manage to do that, he wondered. He also found it odd that he couldn't recall the night before. Was he drinking? He hadn't had a blackout session in quite some time, but it wasn't off the table. His love of bourbon was infamous. Sherry, his wife, despised his only vice and gave him a shitstorm routinely over it. He shrugged and put the car in drive. There was no other traffic in front or behind him in the tunnel. His watch was missing, but he guessed it was near about 5 a.m. He found himself to be quite hungry and thirsty. The BP gas station near the office would likely have some hot coffee and maybe a couple donuts. Chris patted his suit pants pockets, but they were empty. Shitty time to lose his wallet and cell phone. He sighed, disgusted with himself. It must have been a real party for him to walk out without his items. Did I party? Or did Sherry and I fight again, and I drank away my anger? Why the hell does this drive seem to be taking so long? Where's the exit? His thoughts began to focus on the tunnel. While he had driven inside it nearly 20 times this month alone, there were no details he could recall. It was constructed with plain black tar road. There were high gray concrete walls on either side of the 3 lanes and a bike lane. White hanging LED lamps were every 30 feet. The tunnel went on and on. Something's wrong. The tunnel portion of the drive is only 20 minutes or so tops. I've been over a half hour already. He looked at the odometer. Christ, it was way more than he remembered. 56,312 miles. Maybe a good 400 or 500 more miles than he would have guessed. Was it a road trip and an end-all beat-all drunk fest? What the fuck? Sherry's gonna tear me a new one when I get home tonight. He shook his head. Then he realized he wasn't hungover either. He didn't have a headache. His thoughts, though, were a bit foggy. After driving for an hour, he pulled to the side and parked in the bike lane. He punched the button for the hazard lights. He then opened the glove compartment, looking for his phone. In it, stuffed on the side, was a silver flip phone, maybe one of the old Motorola's. It was not his iPhone 13. There was nothing else in the compartment. His registration paperwork and insurance papers were all missing. He retrieved the phone and examined it. It was fully charged and had the current time of 3:52 a.m. on it, as well as the date of 9/18/2029, but nothing else on the display. There were no contacts listed. He checked the history and only found one listed number had been called. It wasn't familiar, but he dialed it anyway. It rang 3 times before an automated robotic voice answered. Christopher Anthony Todd, pending 23 days. It disconnected without even prompting him to leave a voicemail message. Pending what? And what did it mean by 23 days? Starting to feel anxious, and with his temper beginning to boil, he began to put the car in drive. It was time to find the freaking exit. Another hour passed in the long stretch. Chris swore the ceiling was lower and the lanes were getting narrower. The road was crushing in on him. When the odometer hit 56,412, another 100 miles since he first checked, he hit the brakes and screamed in helplessness. He pounded his fist on the dash so hard that it cracked suddenly, formed, and split the smooth, rubbery surface. God damn it, where am... A flash of memory cut his thoughts off. Cher was next to the dresser in the master bedroom. She was standing in a pink and purple pajama top and panties, combing out her long auburn hair. He was coming out of the bathroom, shouting and stumbling. He was very drunk. His shirt was unbuttoned, and it had fresh drink stains on it. She was screaming, "I am sick of your lies." He had screamed, "Shut that bitch mouth of yours," right before he swung wildly and punched her. She flew back and sprawled across the bed. Guilt and shame washed over his features. So they did fight. He did get drunk, and that's why he couldn't remember. Yet something nagged at him. The memory seemed distant. Wasn't that months ago? He questioned himself. Chris pressed hard on the gas pedal. No one was around, so he got close to 110 on the speedometer. He was going to get to that damn exit. He was going to get there now. An hour and a half passed. Nothing in the tunnel had changed. No other cars approached. He was starting to question whether he even woke that morning, starting to question his sanity. Eventually, the Thunderbird sputtered and then stalled, coasting to a stop. It was drained of battery power. He opened the door and walked in front of the car with his hands on his hips, and he tried to figure out what to do next. "The dent is gone," the inner voice shouted at him. This wasn't his car after all. It was only the same make and model. He looked at the key fob and popped the trunk. A thick, red-stained carpet was rolled up and filled the majority of the trunk space. Tufts of auburn hair spilled out from the top. Blood had pooled and congealed by the taillight. He gasped in shock and leapt back. No. He peered aside once more. The horrifying image had ghosted. There wasn't a body. Inside was actually an interesting treasure trove of items. There was a package of bottled water next to a rolled-up sleeping bag. A camouflage backpack had foodstuffs and a copy of The Green Mile by Stephen King, one of his favorite novels. He shook his head, bearing the ghastly image he thought he saw. Nervously, he joked, "Well, we have everything we need, Dorothy. Let's follow that yellow brick road after all." Chris took the items and as many of the water bottles as he could cram into the sleeping bag and backpack. Another instant vision exploded inside his mind. Sherry was in the backyard running. The side of her face and neck were bleeding profusely from deep slashes. He was also running, covered in blood. The blood was not his. He stood there shaking. The nightmare memory hit him hard at his core. What did I do, babe? Oh, God. He started walking again, trying to clear his thoughts of the vision. Chris struck his palm against his temple. He could call for help on the flip phone. He dialed their house, praying she was all right and could answer the phone. Another robotic voice answered instead. "The phone number you have dialed is invalid. Please check." Chris hung up, cursing and muttered under his breath. He dialed his work number. "The phone number you have dialed." He dialed his mother. About this. How about this? He punched in 911. "The phone number you have dialed is invalid. Please check your number and try again." Sighing loudly, he called the one number that seemed to work. The robotic message came back on it again. Christopher Anthony Todd, pending 39 days. Chris scoffed. He had no idea what it all meant and continued his hike. At one point, he stopped and camped in the bike lane. He slept 5 hours on the cold tarmac, but his sleep was filled with chaotic, frantic dreams. The infinite road went on and on. His feet blistered from the dress shoes, and he ditched his suit jacket and his blue tie. 7 hours later, he made another stop to sleep. The cell phone told him Christopher Anthony Todd, pending 47 days. At 4:12 the next day, he spotted something new. It was at first only a dark and square object. After he managed to walk closer, he realized it was the same car he had abandoned. The trunk was still wide open. Chris sank to his knees, broken and exhausted. How is this happening? Why is this happening? A tall, slender man opened the driver's door and climbed out. He wore a blue jumpsuit with a black leather belt. Under a police officer's hat, the light-skinned man had on large reflective sunglasses. His face had almost no clear shape or details. He was blocky, similar to those people his nephew would make in his Minecraft video games. However, in the man's right hand, he carried a black pistol. Chris lunged and bolted back down the roadway. He pulled out the cell again. He dialed by reflex 911. An actual human answered this time. A serious but pleasant female voice said, "State the nature of your emergency, please." Please help me," he shouted, panting from his exertion. "State the nature of your emergency, please. I'm being chased. He has a gun. I don't know why or where I am. Prisoner 56312, Christopher Anthony Todd, sentenced into cryosis penitentiary 65 days ago. Final appeal denied. Your execution date has been approved and moved to today, 9/18/2029. Please remain still." "Fuck you, lady," he screamed back and threw the phone hard to the ground. The past year of arrest, court, press conferences, prison, images of Sherry's corpse, and it all rushed back into him. He had been charged and sentenced to die for killing his wife, Sherry Dane Todd, almost a year ago. On death row, he had been forced into a new experimental AI-generated prison called Cryosis Penitentiary. Chris didn't care about anything at that moment. He only ran. He knew he had to. His body may be lying in some cold storage, but his mind and soul were here in the long stretch. To live again, he couldn't stop running. He wouldn't. The eruption of the gun, 2 blasts, the shock of the sound, and the agonizing bloody holes opened in his chest struck him all at once. Christopher Anthony Todd's case was no longer pending. And that's the end of the long stretch. So that was our 2 stories for tonight. I hope you enjoyed them. Give me 1 second here. We're going to switch back. We're going to put Bob to bed tonight. I hope you enjoyed these stories. I really enjoyed reading them. And please tune in next week. Next week, we are going to have Derek Barton in the hot seat. We're going to be interviewing him, discussing his stories, where he gets his inspiration, maybe some info about being an indie author and any advice he can give new authors. Make sure you stay tuned for at 9:30 next week. And following that, we'll be starting our new author spotlight, which is going to be Al Cooley, and we will be reading, hopefully the camera will like me enough, we'll be reading Spencer's Ghosts, The Guardian, and it's the first. He said that he's actually working on another book that goes to the series. I've already finished this book. I'm excited to start reading that one too and introduce you to Al. He's a great guy. Same thing with Derek. All my authors that I've been working with have been fabulous and so supportive, and I appreciate you all. And I appreciate all the viewership and the love and support this strange little project of mine has gotten. I love you. And as always, thank you for watching, and sweet dreams. Bye-bye, guys. Love you. Mwah.